enjoyed very much your keynote you just did at webinale. Now my first question, you said a quote, something like, you can't buy a space in a conversation.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I use that quote a lot to talk about how social media is very different from every media we've had. A lot of people, we gave the example of coffee here this afternoon. People were forming groups and talking. And if someone was to interrupt that conversation with a branded message, go and buy this, go and buy that, that'd be them trying to buy space in that conversation. I think what people realise in normal day-to-day activities is that conversation is just that. It's freewheeling, it's basically inviting, and you have to be invited to that conversation. I think brands are having a real problem moving from the reach and frequency model, which is broadcast, into having conversation and being respected.
That means traditional ads is something like you go with a loudspeaker on a party and disturbing everybody.
That's right, and so if you're having a conversation, it's also you're having a conversation that's something that's relevant. And I think you'll be allowed into a conversation. You know yourself, if you're looking at someone you think they're interesting, I might go and come up to them and talk to them. You've got to wait to understand what the conversation is about. Then you've got to understand, can I add value to the conversation? And then, and only then, do you decide to say, I've got a view on that, and then you're invited into the conversation. That can work for brands, but they have to have something worthwhile to say, have some value, and being invited to the conversation. That is very difficult for traditional brands to understand because they've never had to do that before.
Yeah. But what does it mean on the long term to traditional brands or to traditional advertisement? Will it vanish?
I don't think it'll ever vanish because I think people will... The best way of explaining that is that people said when radio was overtaken by television and then newspapers and so on, it would all go away. I still watch television, I still read newspapers, I still listen to radio. It hasn't gone away. If anything, it's made my experience even better. So radio stations now will talk about social media channels. Television advertising actually has calls to action that are around social media. Cinema advertising talks about Facebook pages. So I think they actually enhance each other. I don't think broadcast advertising will ever go away. I think we like ads. I think we like seeing the story. And I think the challenge will be, when they make beautiful advertising, will the creative department have some hooks in there for people to actually talk about the ad?
Yeah.
So if you like the ad so much, you want to tell someone, 5 years ago you would have told your neighbour, your friend at work. Now you can actually tweet the world from your lounge chair to say, I've just seen the most amazing ad about Nike. And it makes me go, I want to go and buy some shoes. So I think one can leverage the other, and now advertisers that realise the power of social can leverage that within existing advertising and do it very smartly.
Okay. You also talked about the role of mobile in the social arena. What would you think, or what would you say is the most important element which mobile, that means the availability of smartphones, etc. So the most important element which mobile brought to this field of the social.
So mobile is always on, it's always with you, it's always connected. And so we talked in the room about the point of creative impulse. When you actually feel something and you want to tell the world, you can now do that on your mobile. So rather than having to go home and boot up your computer or write a letter, you can actually, where it happened, tell the world. And I think that is so important. So mobile now becomes the enabler. It's not that it's a mobile social network, it's social media, and you happen to be able to effect that on a mobile channel, on a fixed channel, or in real life. And so I think mobile is the enabler, and it just is always on.
Okay. And in this frame, the mobile phone, the smartphone becomes a really personal thing.
We did a little exercise in the keynote. I got people to swap their mobiles, and everyone was extremely uncomfortable. And my point was that the mobile is just so personal. You can't really just give it to the person next to you. It is yours. It's your own personal media. Yeah. And so I think the message for brands is, if I'm not prepared to give my mobile to someone who's sitting next to me, I'm not prepared to receive your message on my mobile without permission. And so I think brands have to be very, very careful about using mobile as a channel in a traditional way. Again, like a social media conversation, have to be invited. So I think consumers are very wary about messages that are not invited onto their mobile.
Yeah. Talking about mobile, there are also tablets, etc. out there. So mobile is something, if I'm using it in the train, almost nobody can watch on my screen. Screen. How about tablet? This changes it.
It does. The way I look at it, I didn't talk about it in my keynote, but one thing I've looked at is the first screen and the second screen. So the first screen is my mobile, which is this size. I can do that. Yeah. My tablet is my second screen, which also means I'm more allowing of advertising and messages on my second screen, but I'm not allowing them on my first screen because it actually clutters up the screen. So I'm probably less likely to do something really, really personal on my tablet. But I can read newspapers and those sort of things. And again, I'm happy to see some sort of advertising on the tablet because I can actually read around that like I can a newspaper. So I think the tablet and the mobile are different devices. Those that own two, I think, need to look at it as first screen and second screen.
Okay. So thank you very much, and really I enjoyed your keynote. Thanks.
Thanks for having me here in Berlin.
Cool.
Appreciate it.